There's been a clip of Dr. Phil recently going viral for going on The View and telling people what we've known for years now, that children crossing the border are being sent into prostitution and sweatshops. Let's get right into the story. Talk show host Dr. Phil told The View on Monday that some children arriving at the border were being sent into prostitution and sweatshops, citing a conversation he had with head of Border Patrol Union. The View co-host Sonny Hostin asked Dr. Phil about his recent trip to the southern border and asked about the biggest thing he took away from his experience. I talked to the head of all the border guards down there, the head of the union. I asked him straight up, kids are coming over the border with numbers written on them, phone numbers, and addresses. Do we check those out? He said, well, we called them. Is it possible that we're sending them into known prostitution rings or sweatshops? He asked. It's not possible, it's absolute. We are using American tax dollars to ship children into known prostitution and sweatshops, he said. This is nothing new. We've known about this for years now that the Biden administration has been trafficking children and humans across the southern border using taxpayer dollars. Let's keep reading. Co-host Anna Navarro asked him what kind of checking they do at the border, and Dr. Phil explained they call the numbers and ask about the children. That seems like a very thorough checking to me. They call the number and say, do you know about this child? They say, yes. Will you receive them when they come? Yes. I said, is it possible that's a prostitution ring? He said, we know enough to know that in a number of cases, it has turned out to be an absolute sex ring. It has turned out to be an absolute sweatshop. How is that possible? He said. Sonny Hostin asked where the U.S. Attorney's Office was if they're aware that this is happening at the border. You mentioned that there are children crossing the border with numbers and names. Many of them are those named belong to their family members, but you're saying, and that's true, but some of them are sex trafficked, some of them are sweatshop trafficked. Why do you think the federal government is not involved? Why isn't the U.S. Attorney involved? Is this a resource issue, she asked. Have they reached out to the Biden administration about it? This is why I say if you watch mainstream media, mainly if you watch shows like The View, you're actively not in the know, all right? This is nothing new. We've known about this for years, but these people are acting like it's groundbreaking information, asking, where's the Biden administration on this? Well, all the Border Patrol agents are doing exactly what they're told to do by the Biden administration. These are Biden's border policies. Let's keep reading a little further down. Responding to Sonny Hostin, Dr. Phil said, they say that they're so overwhelmed with processing, that's all they can do. They become social workers and processors, and not investigators and border guards, because they're just processing, 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 he responded. Dr. Phil shared his thoughts on his border visit in a video posted to social media in early February. In the video posted to X, the former Dr. Phil host cited Texas GOP Governor Greg Abbott's claim that President Biden wouldn't enforce protection laws and entice thousands of migrants to avoid legal points of entry into the U.S. Texas law enforcement has seized over 454 million lethal doses of fentanyl during this mission. Governor Abbott has said that the federal government has broken the pact between the United States federal government and the states. McGrath said Governor Abbott says President Biden has refused to enforce those laws and has even violated them. The result is a humanitarian crisis unlike anything we have seen before, smashing records for illegal immigration by wasting taxpayer dollars to tear open Texas border security infrastructure, he continued. Governor Abbott says President Biden has enticed tens of thousands of illegal immigrants away from the 28 legal entry points along the Texas border and into the dangerous, deadly waters of the Rio Grande. That's right, folks. Your taxpayer dollars are going towards funding Joe Biden's human trafficking operation. Joe Biden and his administration are human traffickers, and probably they are conducting the largest human trafficking operation in North America, probably even the world, because there's tens of millions of people being flooded over the border. Let's go back to October 25th, 2023, and see what a Biden official has to say about this human trafficking operation. I'm just going to show a clip, but I definitely recommend checking out the whole video.
America. Let me ask you this. You did an audit, I noticed, where you gave yourself a clean bill of health. So just tell me this. Do you require sponsors to document their relationship with the child?
Senator, we have a thorough vetting process.
Do you require sponsors to document their relationship with the child?
Yes, we go through.
No, you do not. You do not. Have you read the Senate's Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations reports on your office? There was one in 2016. There was one in 2018. There was one in 2020. There was one in 2022. Spanning administrations, what they found is you do not require sponsors to document their relationship with the child. You release them anyway. What about background checks? Do you require background checks on all adults in the household?
In cases where the child is being released to their parents, we do not require background checks. But Senator, I would
Do you
really
require
like
background checks on all adults in the household in any case?
yes, in some cases we do.
What percentage of cases do you do background checks on the adults in the household?
I don't have that number.
Do you do home visits in all cases? You can actually see where these children are being released, whose care you're putting them in?
We do not do home visits in all cases. Senator, I'd really like the opportunity to talk about what we are doing.
I know what you're doing, and it's incredibly and totally inadequate. And we can read about it in the New York Times. Since you say you've read it, let's talk a little bit about that New York Times report if we could. Here's a quote from the April 17th installment. Again and again, veteran government staffers and outside contractors told HHS, including reports that reached the secretary, that children appeared to be at risk. Did you warn the secretary that children were at risk?
Senator, I'm in regular contact with the secretary.
Did you warn him that children were at risk?
Safety and well-being of children is our top priority.
Did you warn him that children were at risk?
I'm not going to get into the conversations I've had.
You're here and you're under oath, and this is an oversight hearing. And we need to know what you're doing because you're manifestly not doing your job. Did you warn him that children were at risk? Do you believe that children are at risk? Let's start with that.
Yes.
Okay. Did you warn the secretary?
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics of my conversation, but I would like the opportunity.
Why wouldn't you warn the secretary that children were at risk?
I would like the opportunity to talk about what we.
Let's look at what the secretary said to you. The other one, James. Yeah, that one. At least 5 HHS staff members said they were pushed out after raising concerns about child safety. Mr. Becerra, the secretary, told the ORR director, that's you, right? That if she could not increase the number of discharges, he would find someone who could. And then he went on to say that if Henry Ford had run his plants like this, he would never have become famous and rich. This is not the way you do an assembly line.
I'll cut it off there, but I definitely recommend checking out the whole clip. I just want to also add in that Senator Hawley also sent a letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray demanding a full-scale effort be made to locate the nearly 85,000 missing migrant children. And you're probably wondering, what were those New York Times articles he was talking about? Well, I'll show those to you right now. Alone and exploited, migrant children work brutal jobs across the U.S. Arriving in record numbers, they're ending up in dangerous jobs that violate child labor laws, including in factories that make products for well-known brands like Cheetos and Fruit of the Loom. Oh wow, who could have ever thought that multinational corporations love illegal immigration into the United States? Let's look at a few of these stories. This one about a 15-year-old Carolina Yuck who came to the United States on her own last year to live with a relative she never met. She works on a conveyor belt. It could be dangerous work with fast-moving pulleys and gears that had torn off fingers and ripped open a woman's scalp. The factory was full of underage workers like Carolina who had crossed the southern border by themselves and were now spending late hours bent over hazardous machinery in violation of child labor laws. At nearby plants, other children were tending giant ovens to make Chewy and Nature Valley granola bars and packing bags of Lucky Charms and Cheetos, all of them working for the processing giant Harside Food Solutions, which would ship these products across the country. Sometimes I get tired and feel sick, Caroline said after a shift in November. Stomach often hurt, and she was unsure whether it was because of lack of sleep, the stress from the incessant roar of the machines, or the worry she had for herself and her family in Guatemala, but I'm getting used to it. These workers are part of a new economy of exploitation. Migrant children who have been coming to the United States without their parents in record numbers are ending up in some of the most punishing jobs in the country. New York Times investigation found the shadow workforce extends across industries in every state, flouting child labor laws that have been in place for nearly a century. 12-year-old roofers in Florida and Tennessee, underage slaughterhouse workers in Delaware, Mississippi, and North Carolina, children sawing planks of wood on overnight shifts in South Dakota, Largely from South America, the children are driven by economic desperation that was worsened by the pandemic. This labor force could have been slowly growing for almost a decade, but has exploded since 2021. With while the systems meant to protect children have broken down, Time spoke with more than 100 migrant children workers in 20 states who described jobs that were grinding them into exhaustion and fear, and that they have become trapped in circumstances they never could have imagined. Times examination also drew on court and inspection records and interviews with hundreds of lawyers, social workers, educators, and law enforcement officials. In town after town, children scrub dishes late at night. They run milking machines in Vermont and deliver meals in New York City. They harvest coffee and build lava rock walls around vacation homes in Hawaii. Girls as young as 13 wash hotel sheets in Virginia. There's so many stories in this article. I definitely recommend you reading it. It's a pretty long read, but it's just absolutely heartbreaking what's going on. We saw in that video earlier that they thoroughly check the sponsors of the people these children are going to. Let's hear one story of Neri Kutzel. Neri was 13 when he met his sponsor over Facebook Messenger. Once Neri arrived in Florida, he discovered that he owed more than $4,000 and had to find his own place to live. His sponsor sent him threatening text messages and kept a running list of new debts: $140 for filing out HHS paperwork, $240 for clothes from Walmart, $45 for a taco dinner. Don't mess with me, the sponsor wrote. You don't mean anything to me. Neri began working until 3 a.m. most nights at a trendy Mexican restaurant near Palm Beach to make the payments. He said I would be able to go to school and he would take care of me, but it was all lies. Yeah, they seem like they really thoroughly checked out this person, this sponsor, for this 13-year-old who just crossed into the country illegally by himself. But this is exactly what Joe Biden and his administration want. All right, they want unfettered illegal immigration into the United States where there are countless victims. All right, you guys remember the movie The Sound of Freedom? How horrible that was? What is going on under the Biden administration is that probably 1,000 times worse. This is an article I just love bringing up because it came out in January 2022. Leaked video showing illegal migrants landing at Westchester Airport on secret charter flight, one of dozens carried out on orders of Biden administration. The government is betraying the American people. I remember when this story first came out, it was just absolutely mind-blowing that they were flying people in the middle of the night into New York, and Jen Psaki's response was something like, "Oh, 5 a.m. isn't the middle of the night." It is absolutely disgusting what these people are doing. All right, like this guy says right here. When asked why everything was done secretly, a contractor tells the officer it is because the government is betraying the American people. Do you think the host on The View would be upset about this? They probably should be, but they will still continue to shill for Joe Biden, saying that he is a good president when he is literally a human trafficker. Remember when they were so upset that Trump was separating families? Well, yeah, they were checking to see if the 27-year-old man that came over with a 13-year-old girl is actually his daughter. But they come out and said that they are separating families. That's why these people are evil, all right? They stand by and defend a human trafficker. These policies aren't sustainable, all right? We've seen what it's done to the country in little over 3 years. Imagine if Biden wins again. What will happen to the country in 8 years? Will there even be a country left after that if tens of millions of people just keep flooding into the country illegally? That's why I say whenever somebody tells me that they're going to vote for Biden, I just ask them, what do you like more, the human trafficking or the child sex changes? I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you agree with me or disagree with me, please let me know why. I'd love to know. Thank you.